I never thought that it would be a day to where that I would turn that into a business and turn it into my passion. But as I grew up, my grandfather owned a portable toilet company down here. And I always got into working for him. And ever since I was a young little girl, we would always go over to his office, and I would go into the office, and I would just see him and Miss Roz always doing like the paperwork and making phone calls and all of that. So I would always have me a little place on the side of his desk where I had my little keys and my little pencil. I didn't know what I was doing, but I thought in my head I was doing something at that time. But as I got older, my grandfather taught us the business, how to start a business, how to do your financials, how to market, every aspect of the business. I knew then that I wanted to be like my grandfather and be in the entrepreneurial world. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to be in the entrepreneurial world. Also, by that too, I did venture out as getting older and going to work for different people and having very high positions. And in that, I've learned different aspects of the business over time. But with those positions come very demanding and very stressful times too, where even though you're making this great amount of money, the amount of stress and unhappiness that comes with those jobs, I would just always go home depressed and unhappy and just like, what is it that I want to do? What can I do to that if I wake up tomorrow, it doesn't feel like I'm going to do a job. And I know I had ventured out to Arizona and then I had came back home and I ended up getting a position in Winona. And that was the last one, y'all, for me. But I noticed over all these times that certain skills that I developed, and a lot of the companies recognized me because I was great at coming in and getting their operations together on a high level. I didn't like it, but they liked me. With that being said, is that my final draw was I just realized that I wasn't happy. I went home, I meditated, and that day I was like, okay. I was like, you like doing hair? And I had tried to go to cosmetology school one time before, and I did not do right. I asked my Uncle Shannon, because he stayed in Dallas. I was like, can I come stay with you while I go to school? Did not do right, but came back. Life had to happen to me, and it came back around. And I was like, you know something? That's what I like doing. Just talking to individuals that is like, oh no, you can't really make a business out of doing hair, like you're not going to be successful. It was just a lot of negativity that came around with doing hair. And at that moment, I was like, you know something, I don't care what anybody else has to say. Okay. Because if it's my purpose, it's my purpose. And I didn't tell my mom, I didn't tell anybody what I was going to do. I had took off from work, I had drove to Dallas. I didn't want to go to school in Tyler. I wanted to go to Dallas. I thought it would be better opportunities. So I took off from work one day and I went up there. I found a few schools that I wanted to go to, Paul Mitchell and Oval. And so I was staying in Jacksonville, driving to Winona, and in my head, I was like, okay, Charla, how are you going to make this happen? I didn't want to stop my job. I didn't want to ask my grandfather to back me up financially. So I was like, how are you going to do this? So I ended up going to see Oval School. I like them. And the lady was like, well, I don't know if you can make it over here to this campus by 6 o'clock. That's when the afternoon program started. She's like, well, we do have another branch that is closer coming into Dallas. I said, okay. I went over there, looked at the campus, and I signed up. I didn't have second thoughts about it. I didn't have anything. I just signed up. I still had not told my mom. I had not told anybody what I had done. But I had went back home. I was like, okay, this is like a 2-hour drive. How are you going to do this? So I had told my current boss at that time that I was going back to school and that I needed to get off at 4 o'clock every day. And he was like, okay, that's fine as long as all of your work is done. How I did it, I don't know, because in actuality, I needed to work an extra 20 hours a week on top of whatever I was doing for the amount of work that I already had. But I knew in my heart and my spirit that it was my time to go into what I really wanted to do. So I would literally leave work every day at 4 o'clock and make it to school probably 10 to 15 minutes later every day. But I didn't care. I would get in trouble almost every day, and the teachers would be like, Charla, and I was like, look, I'm making it. I'm driving literally 2 hours to make sure that I am up here every day. If you want to kick me out over that, so be it. But I am still showing up like I am supposed to. While in school, it's like something just opened up in me and just became free. Like, this is what you were supposed to walk into. The clients that we would have come in there just so we could practice on. At that moment, to have somebody come into a space and be vulnerable with you and tell you certain things that's going on in their lives and stuff like that, and they're depending on you to brighten their day up. That is what really made me love what I do. But I ended up graduating, and let me take a step back. So while in school, that's when the whole natural silk press trend started happening. I seen it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go take a class from an experienced lady that was already in it. So at that moment, I'm like, I had a place in Jacksonville. I'm like going back and forth. Like, money was tight. I didn't have the money, but I was like, for you to excel, you're gonna have to sacrifice somewhere. And I remember she had posted this class. I spent the money. I went and took the class, and that's all she wrote. I was booked up in cosmetology school. I had my hair assistants, they was my assistants, and I was like, this is the right path. But I'm gonna stop right there and go back for a moment and just tell y'all that no matter what you do in life, keep God close to you. Not even if you're going to a church or if you're affiliated with a certain religion, whatever. God is going to always be there. And when I had already made the decision to go to school, I did not know where I was going to stay or anything, okay? In my head, I made the decision to go to school there, and I was willing to drive from Jackson Winona to Dallas to back to Jacksonville, all in one day, because I knew where I was going to go in my head. One day, I was leaving home, and my cousin Ashley from Dallas, who stays in Dallas, she had called me to check on me. Mind you, I was starting school in like the next few weeks. But my cousin had called me just to check on me. And I was having a discussion with her about, my plans. And she was like, that's too much job in Charla. She was like, I got an extra room, you can stay here. And I was like, whoo. Because I didn't want to get anybody else involved in my plan. And I just remember, I was like, okay, great. So then I was like, God brings people into your life in moments and you don't even realize it. But that took a lot off of my chest at that moment because I was like, great. She came in, she let me stay at her house through the week, and then I could just come back on the weekends to see my family. But just to go forward, once I graduated school, that's when the Instagram and the trend and all of that became popular. And I was out there. And at this moment, I had brought my oldest daughter with me, Alexis. So she was in the hustle with me. She helped me build everything. And I just remember going to work for another place at that moment. And I was just like, I can't do this. I like making my own schedule. I like making everything what I want it to be. And I did. But it came with a lot of sacrifice. I worked 7 days a week, all day long sometimes. And with that being said, is that you can achieve whatever you want to in life. If you make your goal and you stick to it and you keep God out of it. I was out of school I graduated in May. By that December, I had already made almost 6 different businesses. I came out hustling, doing whatever I needed to do to grow my business. I remember that January, I had called my grandfather for some tax purposes. And he was like, oh, that ain't no real money. And I was just like, what do you mean that ain't no real money? I've been out here working hard. But then he was like, no. He was like, I understand that. But as a businessman, you need to do business. But along with that, I built relationships. And this year will be my 8th year in business. And it has been, I'm very thankful that I had the opportunity to grow up with my grandfather who owned his own business. Because he showed me the ins and outs of when everything is down, how to keep your business alive. But with that, the key thing is relationships. And that's the one thing that till this day, the relationships, even through COVID, I just remember with so many stylists talking about how they had to shut down their business, they couldn't survive. And I just remember my clients come in and ask like, hey, okay, they have a mask on, they have like wrapped around in saran wrap, okay? But they was like, no, we need to come, I need to get my hair done. They didn't need to get their hair done, but it was just the support that they still wanted to give to me, even in hard times. And that was just built off relationship. And over time, I've always asked clients, I'm like, why did you decide to come to me? And the one thing they said is, it's peaceful when I come here. I've never had any negative energy. That's for another day. But I love empowering women. And I have loved the network of every woman that has sat in my chair. We come in, we talk, they might have a bad day. I'm like, girl, I got some wine for you, okay? But it's a safe space for them. And after that, I'm there to help them feel more confident about themselves when they have to go back into the world and face whatever they're facing. And for me, that gives me a power to be like, okay, how can you elevate this to another level? And I'm still working on that, but at the end of the day, I always thank God for letting me see my purpose and walk in my purpose and being that safe space for women on a daily basis. And even though sometimes I know that it's particular things that I'm not so good at, just clients coming to you and being like, well, I don't care if you're not the best at it, I just trust you to do it. And that is something that I hold dear to my heart on a day-to-day basis. But I've always loved beauty, and I've always just loved the idea of it. But that is my story. I'm still currently in Dallas now. I did have the opportunities to travel with clients and do their hair, and it's a great experience for me. And the one thing I can tell anybody is, I know we're not all on the same time frame. But at the same time, when you find out what it is that you truly enjoy doing, it makes you happy, go for it. No matter what anybody has to say, go for it. Put all the noise out and you go for it. Because at the end of the day, before I had